Now that we've shown you how to install the app on your phone, we'll now give you a run through on how to actually enter transactions. So this is being done on the assumption that this phone has been used by a person themselves. It's not a team device. So you would log into the app, and then here you've got several buttons, which I'll just quickly touch on. So the About button, Swap Account, Sync and Add Time. So the About button is just telling us information we may need to know about your device. You're less likely to need that unless we ask you for it. The Swap Account button will simply log you out of the app. If the app is being used on a device that's being used by multiple people, but if that's the case, we would probably set this up differently. So you don't need to worry about the swap account. If you come out by just closing the app and go back in, you're always logged in. If you swap account, it means you're actually logging out. The sync button is if we are needing to sync manually. So by default, it's set up to sync to the servers live, assuming you've got access to the internet via Wi-Fi or cell phone network. If you haven't, if your device is offline for some reason, then the data will stay on the device. Or if you have set the system to manual sync, which some clients do, where the employees build up a day's worth of data and then sync their data at the end of the day, then that would be the button that you would push at the end of the day. But typically, we don't do it that way. So now what we're going to do is show you how to add some time. So I simply come into the Add Time option. Now, for most of you, you're going to be using the Clock Now, Clock In, Clock Out buttons on the system. So that's what I will show you first. So if you're using that, you simply hit Clock Now, and that will pick up the timestamp, date and timestamp from your device, and then you would go OK. So that information will just sit there till later in the day when you come back in and clock out. Now, the other thing you can do while I'm waiting for my clock to tick over far enough for me to actually clock out is there are some other fields down the bottom. So I can enter a break if need be. So if I'm putting in a full day's worth of work and I need to clock my break, I can put in a break. I can put in a note in the system to let my employer know whatever I want them to know, or if I need to give them a message about something to do with the job I've been working on or what I've been doing today. There's also fields down the bottom where you can select the job, client, process, task, whatever that may be that you're working on. Now, these will only be enabled if your employer is actually using that functionality. So if they are tracking job costing through MyTimesheets. So for example, I'm going to say that I'm working on the Smith job and I'm doing an installation. Now, if this data, these drop downs are not there, it means that your employer is not using them. And there may be 1, 2, or even 3 of these, depending on the nature of the environment that we're working in. So whatever's here is that's what you select, and this is something that your employer will cover off with you. So I come back up the top and I go, okay, so this data, as I say, is just going to sit here waiting for me to clock out at the end of the day. And now that I've gone forward more than a minute, I can do that. So you'll see it showing here that the finish time has not been entered, but it is showing you when you started the job, what job you're working on and what process you're in, and then also your note here. So to go back in when you finish job, if I had come out of the app and then I come back in later in the day, I simply go back to the job that I have still open and I go clock now, which now has got me clocking out at 12:41, and I say OK, and the data immediately syncs with our server in this particular case. As I say, if you're working in an offline state or manual sync, then the data would still be sitting there. And that's all it takes to enter a timesheet. Now, in some cases, employers will allow staff to enter other things, such as time worked in units rather than start and stop, or even in some cases piece rates for items that they've been working on, or leave. So we've got clients who are entering leave. So if you see something in this drop down at the top here, then that's something that your employer has configured, and they will instruct you on how to do that. But for most people, it's based on ordinary time in a start and stop scenario. So that's how that works. So that's all it takes to enter your timesheets, and hopefully that'll make it faster and more accurate for you. In the next video, we'll cover how to go and view what you've entered in a timesheet via a browser view where you've got more information available to you.